Tika, we ready to record? Good to see everybody. Welcome to the Winston-Salem Transit Authority Board of Directors meeting here for April 29th. Always great to see everybody. And yay, we're surviving every day, right? Every month, this pandemic. It's always good to see you all and enjoying this beautiful weather. As we always start this meeting, we need to do a verbal roll call. Tika, if you want to do that before I move forward.
Yes, sir. Chairman Robert Garcia.
Here.
Vice Chairman Keith King.
Present.
Dr. Jack Fuya.
Present.
Ms. Janet Lawson Jackson. Mr. Willie Clark Jr.
Present.
Ms. Latanya Wright.
Here.
Ms. Lynette Allendorf.
Here.
Mr. Osborne. Okay, I have completed the calling of the roll for the board members.
Thank you so very much, Tika. I appreciate that. And as always, everyone, due to the COVID-19 pandemic that we are still currently in, Governor Roy Cooper issued a safer at home order, which we abide by for residents of North Carolina, and because of that, all Winston-Salem Transit Authority board meetings will adhere, of course, until further notice, and our meetings will be virtual as they are now. They are being recorded and accessible to those that want to have access to it. We do have access to this Zoom call. They're also for the public that want to make public comments. There's always a phone number that they can call in. So that is for them. So again, welcome everybody. Safety message. I always got to think of a safety message for everybody. And I guess my safety message, I thought about it this afternoon, would be for those of us that are feeling more comfortable about travel, about going out and about. Because maybe I know for myself, I've received all my vaccines and everything, and things are loosening up a little bit. But my safety message would be, please still adhere to some guidelines for yourself and for your family, because it's still out there. In the medical field that I'm in, I get a lot of great feedback from our medical experts and listening to them, and it's still out there. So please be very, very careful of your travels. Still adhere when you can to the mask guidelines, and just be safe. We want to keep seeing everybody at our monthly meetings. So thank you very, very much. Ms. Woodson, if we have the, the agenda, the board agenda for everybody to follow.
Yes, can you see the agenda?
Yes.
I can see it there. If you could just, might want to blow it up just a hair.
That better?
Yeah. If you can just enlarge it a little bit. Okay. Whoops, it went back down.
I'm gonna make it one page.
There we go. And then just enlarge that way everybody can. Okay. So now, before we get started with our action items, we always go to public comment. Ms. Woodson, I'm not sure if anybody has signed on for public comment.
No, sir, we did not have anyone to call in to request the link for the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Then we'll proceed with our action items, and always the first action item. I'm sorry. Oh, thought somebody said something. Our first action item is always the approval of the previous board meeting minutes, which you had received, everyone, all board members, you received the board minutes, the board packet, and there was a couple of addendums also that Tika sent out to a couple of things right after that with some edits. So if we could just take a few minutes, if you have those in front of you, or maybe some notes that you might have made in regards to those board minutes before we have a motion to approve.
Chairman Garcia, may I say one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
The edits were from the minutes that were approved at last month's board meeting. They were some
Right.
suggestions that we received from Dr. Fleer.
Okay. Any questions about the previous board minutes and or the edits? Very good, J.S. I did go through the edits, and Dr. Flair, of course, as always, thank you for your sharp eye on those items.
You're welcome.
Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the March 25th board meeting?
I move to
Mr.
approve.
King, Mr. King, approve. A second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Dr. Flair. We have a second by Mr. King. All those please signify by saying aye in a roll call order. Aye, Robert Garcia.
Aye, Keith King.
Aye, Jack Fleer.
I, Willie Clark.
I, Latanya Wright.
And Ms. Allendorf?
I'm Lynette Allendorf. I was trying to get off mute. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Those opposed, same sign. Okay. The resolution approving the minutes of the March 25th board meeting has been approved. Now we'll go to our, now we'll go to our first resolution. And that has to do with WSTA's Transaid Appeals Committee bylaws. This was very interesting when I read this, Ms. Woodson. I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. What you have before you this afternoon is the Transaid Appeals Committee bylaws. This committee we have established some bylaws that they will govern by for passengers or patrons that wish to ride the paratransit services. If they are denied service for any reason and they feel it's unjust, then they have to go through the appeals process. And this established some bylaws or rules for the committee to adhere to. It also addresses when a passenger that we currently transport on our Transaid system has violated the policy as it relates to like no-shows when the driver comes to pick them up and they just don't call and cancel and they provide that trip. That is deemed a no-show. So based off of the amount of no-shows that they receive in a certain time frame, then that person can be denied services for an extended amount of time based off of the policy. So the bylaws that you have before you this afternoon is just a set of guidelines that the committee will adhere to in order to have make sure that each case is heard within the timeline and the patrons have the right to make that appeal.
And I noticed that the committee, of course, it's made up of the general public, a few members of the general public, and of course, the members of the WSTA staff. And they are 2-year commitments. Am I correct?
Yes, they can be represented. They can represent on the board for up to 2 years.
Okay. Fellow board members, questions? I'm sorry, I think there was a comment. I did not catch it all.
When appropriate, I move that we adopt the resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. King. We have a motion to approve the resolution regarding WSTA's TransAid Committee bylaws. Do we have a second?
Willie Clark, second.
Mr. Clark, thank you very much for a second. Now we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye and roll call order. Aye, Robert Garcia.
I, Keith King.
I, Jack Fleer.
I, Willie Clark.
I, Latanya Wright.
I, Lynette Allendorf.
Those opposed, same sign. The resolution approving the TransAid Appeals Committee bylaws has been approved. Our next resolution is regarding a contract between the City of Winston-Salem and GALS, G-A-L-L-S, the Limited Liability Company, LLC, for WSTA's uniforms.
Yes, sir. And again, on behalf of the WSTA staff, we are bringing this resolution to you all this afternoon to request that the City of Winston-Salem, the purchasing department, as well as the general manager myself, enter into a one-year agreement for driver uniforms for our operators. This agreement, if it's so approved, would be for 1 year with an option of 2 years moving forward after that. And this agreement is just for the driver uniforms. They have an allotment, annual allotment per contract that they are allowed to utilize up to that amount each year to purchase uniforms or reorder uniforms as they need them. The total agreement for this, the total amount for this 1 year would be up to $80,000 if so approved.
Okay. Fellow board members, any questions? If there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Jack
Thank you,
Fleer.
Dr. Fleer. A second?
Second, Lynette Allendorf.
Thank you, Ms. Allendorf. All those in favor of the resolution approving contract between the City of Winston-Salem and GALS LLC for Winston-Salem Transit Authority's uniform signify by saying aye and roll call order. I, Robert Garcia.
I, Willie Clark.
I, Jack Fleer.
I, Latanya Wright.
I, Lynette Allendorf.
And those opposed, same sign. The resolution approving the contract between the City of Winston-Salem and GALS for the WSTA uniforms has been approved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, board members.
Our next resolution is a final contract extension with North State Security Group. Hopefully all of you have read this. Again, this is an extension, and if I recall correctly, Ms. Woodson, this was like an extension from the third year to the fourth year, or the second to the third year?
This is the third year that this will be awarded, and it's the final year actually. And that was confirmed with the city's purchasing department. This is the final year that North State will be able to have this contract before we have to go back out for
Okay.
Go back out for bid.
Okay. And I believe we lost a shared screen. Am I correct? Or did you? Okay, no problem. Now, after that, is North State what the City of Winston-Salem in general uses across the board, or I couldn't remember?
North State is the security that we utilize for the transportation center to manage the TC. I'm not sure if they're utilized in any other city departments or not, but they're here and they were in Greensboro, GTA as well. And this contract is the same total dollar amount for the third and final year, which would not exceed $165,000 for this year. And the terms of this extension, it does say from July 1 to 2020 through, and it will end June 30th, 2022. And that is because that is the end date for the current year that you all approved last year. It ends June 30th of 2021. So this would be approval for July 1st, 2021 through 2022.
And certainly, Ms. Woodson, with an extension of a contract must mean that we are, we're very pleased with the services so far that has been provided. I know there has been, throughout the years that I've been on the board, at times issues with security in and around the Clark Campbell Transportation Center. Has that subsided somewhat? Is that still?
Yes, sir.
Are they?
We have
Okay.
had several meetings. We meet with North State on a monthly basis. So we have had some concerns with the security and with the how the transportation center was monitored. They have made several improvements up to and including replacing officers at our request. And recently, they basically have changed out all of the officers at the transportation center. Over a period of time, they become too a little friendly with the passengers, and it's harder and makes it challenging to manage to the expectations of Winston and the city of Winston-Salem. So the North State security officials, they saw that, they recognized that through their observations. So they went in and removed people themselves and replaced them with officers. So, and just in the last few weeks, just going down randomly, walking through the transportation center, it looks totally different. They're managing the incidents and things that are taking place. You know, we receive complaints, but they're doing what they're supposed to do. And that's what we want to provide a transportation center where people feel safe to come and take care of their transit needs. So they have improved significantly. There's always room for improvement, but they have improved.
Okay.
I was just add a comment real quick. It's interesting your comment about they get very familiar and friendly with the customers, which we want. But at the same time, it's a fine line. So I think probably most services would be a challenge. But it sounds like this one is open to the feedback and making changes. So that's a good thing.
Yes.
You're so right, Ms. Allendorf. I mean, there's a fine line, but definitely a separation of church and state, as the saying goes. And they're in immediate contact with the city of Winston-Salem Police Department. Am I correct, Ms. Woodson?
That's correct. They work hand in hand with the Bike Patrol as well. And then the Bike Patrol of the city of Winston-Salem have increased their presence at the transportation center too. So that has been very helpful.
Okay. Okay. Are there any further questions or comments?
Jack Flair, I move its approval.
Thank you, Dr. Flair. Do we have a second?
Tanya Wright will second.
Ms. Wright, thank you so very much for that second. All those in favor of the contract extension with North State Security Group, please signify by saying aye in a roll call fashion. Aye, Robert Garcia.
Aye, Jack Flair.
I, Latanya Wright.
I, Lynette Allendorf.
All those opposed, same sign. The resolution authorizing the final contract extension with North State Security Group has been approved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
The last resolution, and forgive me if I look like I'm straining to see this, but you know, even though I have 3 levels of vision here, I'm still kind of straining. A good thing I wrote it down too is the resolution awarding a purchase order for sole source vendors, excuse me. Ms. Woodson?
Yes, sir. Is that a little better, Mr. Garcia?
No.
Font. So again, this should look familiar to you all, the board members, not the newer board members, but on an annual basis, the city's purchasing department and the general manager come before the board to ask for permission to have purchase orders with a sole source vendor, which basically means where we have we need parts for maintenance that is only provided by one specific vendor. So we have a list compiled so that we won't have to come before the board or go to the to get this done, signed every time we have a different sole source vendor. So it basically authorizes the maintenance manager and this purchasing department to to have purchase orders with these sole source vendors for this time frame from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022.
And I do know that the vendors are very well vetted. And I know that, and always in asking John in regards to the vendors, I know it's vetted by him. And yes, and we also adhere to the guidelines. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember what it is, where we look for vendors in regards to not just the large companies. What's the word I'm looking for?
DBE.
Yes,
Yes, disadvantaged business enterprise. Yes, and we make sure all of the vendors have gone through the city's purchasing policy requirements and the federal regulations. So everything is in compliance with all of the above, up to the estimated spending amount for 1 year.
Okay.
Ms. Woodson, may I ask, this is Jack Fleer, are these all continuing contracts? Are there any new ones there?
Most of these are continued contracts. We've been with them, and we just have to do it we can only do it for 1 year. So that's just why we bring it to you every year. But yes, most of these are all continuing contracts. I believe there's one on here, Mohawk. John, if you are available, if you can hear us, can you confirm? I know that the majority of them are return vendors, current vendors.
The only two that we added was the tire vendors, which Mark Tires, a state contract vendor, and Goodyear. They are the one that only provide that transit rated tire that we need. We had issues with the Michelin, so that's why we went to the Goodyear.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
This is Jack Fleer. Move its approval.
Thank you, Dr. Fleer. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second, Lynette Allendorf.
Ms. Allendorf, thank you so very much for that second. All those in favor of the resolution awarding the purchase order for sole source vendors signify in roll call order by saying aye. Aye, Robert Garcia.
Aye, Jack. Aye, Jack Fleer.
I, LaTanya Wright.
I, Lynette Allendorf.
Thank you. All those opposed, same sign, signify same sign. The resolution awarding the purchase order for sole source vendors has been approved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
That concludes the action items. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Woodson.
It completes the action items.
There we go. And now we're going to go into old business.
Yes.
The bus stop.
Yes. So effective on May 10th, Worcester's making some changes to our routes, and we want to start off with the bus stop, the Worcester bus stops. Previously, there was a criteria that was set in Winston for passengers to be able to catch the Worcester buses. And the criteria was basically wherein you could stand at a corner. If the bus was making a left turn and they turned on the left and you were standing there at the street, you could get the bus, access the bus if it was at an intersection. So there were things of that nature that would warrant passengers to get the bus at any given time. When the service changes were made years ago in 17, 18, that was when that was supposed to end. All passengers were supposed to be accessing the Worcester buses at a bus stop, and a bus stop only, for safety reasons, for one, as well as on-time performance. But through the years, that still had some passengers were still able they were allowed to catch the bus at the criteria. And we noticed that, and it has caused some issues with our services. So in an effort to make sure that we did not have causing a lot of havoc for our riders. We went through and looked at the routes and the distance between the bus stops on each route. Ms. Tina advertised for any comments or suggestions. The drivers, because they're our front line, make suggestions to places or on routes that we would need to add stops to make sure that we did not cause our passengers to have to walk an excessive amount from one bus stop to the other, or from a location, an area. So we've added over 100 bus stops to our existing 31 routes. And while doing so, now that that project has been completed, and it took a long time because we had a contractor to install those bus stops, we have got to the point now where we can actually go, we feel we can go to our bus stop only service, which should have been. So that will be effective on May 10th, and I'm sure that Tina and her marketing communication will update you on the all of the outreach that she put out there to make sure passengers were aware of this change. But that will be taking place on Monday, May the 10th. Any questions?
I do have one question.
Yes.
If there is an established stop that's established through the app, but it doesn't have a sign, will it eventually get a sign?
If there is an established stop on the app, it should have a sign. So
Okay.
that location, if that happens, then that sign has been knocked down for whatever reason or taken down for construction. And we just need to know about that so that we can make sure that we put that sign back up.
Okay.
So the criteria did not have, it was not noted in our app, on the NextBus app.
Great.
Yeah.
Great question. Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions?
And that is, as Ms. Woodson has told me on more than one occasion, the drivers are very happy about this because it puts them in quite the predicament when people all of a sudden just pop up and around the corner.
Yes.
So thank you for doing that. Okay.
Right. It's a safety issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on. We have a response to Ms. Lawson's question about the
Ms.
food
Lawson
pantry.
is not with us today, but I just wanted to make sure, we have questions or concerns that we want to come back to in our next meeting to make sure we address. I'll close up. That was a question on the transportation to the food banks, and Ms. Lawson had questioned if we provided service to the one in Clemens, and we do, and that because it's outside of our service area, we do provide it as long as we have the staff available to provide that trip.
Okay. And I believe that was included in the package too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to scroll up. Or down, I should say.
Okay, so here I'm proud to announce that on an annual basis, the North Carolina Public Transportation Authority, they have a conference, and they usually have a rodeo, a bus and van rodeo, where participants are able, from transit systems, are able to participate, and they go through driving courses, they win money and trophies and certificates for their system. Because of COVID, we were not able to do the annual Public Transportation Association rodeo. However, they modified it, as we have to do in the COVID world, and they have had it virtually. So they did have the conference portion virtually from April the 12th through the 14th. And Winston-Salem Transit Authority drivers actually were the recipient of the safety award for 2020. And they received that award because they drove over 1 million miles without having a preventable accident. And I put the slogan on there, because you rock, we roll. We had our Transit Driver Appreciation Day on March 18th. And that was the slogan that Tina selected and felt appropriate for our drivers. And they received a little cup with their slogan on it with some little candy in it, just as a means to say thank you and we appreciate you, what you do for WSTA. So I wanted the board to be aware of the award that the drivers received.
Ms. Woodson, I don't, it's, at least on my screen, it's not showing. I know I saw it in the package. The photo of the award.
Okay, hold on, so good.
There it is.
Congratulations. This is Jack Flair, and I like the motto, because you rock, we roll. I think that's terrific.
Thanks to Tina. She thinks of everything.
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing feat, right? That many miles.
Yes, and that was between fixed route and Transaid. The conference, they always, for whatever reason, they specify fixed route because they log all of the miles and everything into the fixed route because it's the larger system, but this was collected between fixed route and Transaid.
Okay, well, congratulations, everyone. Please pass along. We'll have to celebrate this once we can get back to the meeting in person. And too bad y'all didn't have the rodeo.
Yeah, that was, a lot of people were upset about that. I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute so that I can get the next slide up. But yes, and hopefully in 2022, we will be able to have the rodeo because the drivers are looking forward to participating in that rodeo.
Roping those buses is so difficult, and they practice all year long for that. I just kidding. Not that kind of a rodeo. There we go.
All righty, so the next thing on the agenda, if we can go, Mr. Garcia, if we can go to our marketing report. Tina's going to speak on behalf of the route changes.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are happy, actually, to let you know that we're going to be making changes to routes 87 and Route 89. And these are primarily safety reasons that we have made these changes, but it's so great because we're going to be adding service to some locations, particularly on Route 89 that lost service when we made the route changes back in 2017. So Route 87 was traveling on Haynes Mill Road, making a U-turn in front of K&W, and it's just way too dangerous to do that. So 87 will now continue to serve for Cytex Transportation Center, but it's going to head straight up Germantown Road and make a left on Haynes Mill Road. We're still going to be able to serve K&W, which is great, and then it's going to come back in straight via Patterson Avenue. But people along the route of Germantown Road, particularly those who may work at the Maple Chase facility, there will have an opportunity to have some service, which is great for them. And then I'm really excited about the changes that were implemented for Route 89. Interestingly, it was because 89 had to attempt on 2 occasions to come out of the North Point Plaza Shopping Center, making a left turn. Way too dangerous, particularly at certain times of the day. So we are going to instead make a right turn out of North Point Plaza, take a right on Bethlehem, and then travel, take a right turn up Indiana Avenue. That is going to serve at least 3 apartment complex locations, as well as a residential community there. Route 44 used to travel up Indiana Avenue, so we're really excited to be able to more or less like restore service to that area. Mr. Crawford has identified some stop locations along that road, as well as along Germantown Road for Route 87. So we're just trying to get the word out to the community and help them understand that some great things will be coming their way by way of the Winston-Salem Transit Authority service.
Fantastic. Okay. Questions or comments? Okay. Ms. Woodson or Tina, was that? Was there anything further on
Well, I will go on and take the opportunity to, if it's okay, to let you know how we are informing our ridership of these changes, particularly for the changes to 87 and 89. I don't know if you can see that, but I have a piece that I put downstairs for passengers to take home with them. We've got signs posted every place. We have advertisements on the radio, print media, social media, and also we created a brochure that not only lists all of the new bus stop locations, but also gives more or less like a turn-by-turn definition of where these routes will be traveling. We created the brochures so that they can just pick it up and take it home with them. So it's been really great. We're getting some good feedback on it, but that's how we were trying to spread the word because, hey, it really is a big deal. It's a good day. It's a good day, particularly for folks who are going to be getting service that lost it in 2017.
And I will say, and for our new board members, that when it comes to changes or edits that we do on any of these routes, our staff, the Winston staff, does an amazing job of getting the word out. It's just not done in just a little flyer here or there. I mean, there's really no excuse for any of the ridership to say, I didn't know, because they try their best to inform in every manner possible. So thank you for that, Tina, and everyone.
Mr. Garcia.
Okay. Ms. Woodson, I believe what you're showing there has to do with those bus stop locations.
Yes. So if there are no more questions for Tina, we'll go ahead to the monthly.
Ms. Carroll's monthly presentation.
Yes.
Take it away, Ms. Carroll.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I feel like it's been a few months since I've talked to you about the data. And before we jump into it, I just want to preface it with we're into, COVID for a year now. And so last March, we were starting to see all the impacts of COVID. So you'll see in the data, it looks like that we're getting back to normal because our reductions aren't as great, but it's really because a year ago we were having reductions too. So I just want to preface it with that, but go ahead to the next slide, Ms. Donna. So looking at the long term here of what's happened over the last year, first it fixed right on the left side of the screen. You can see for March, we were up 15% from February, not surprising, had more days in the month. But compared to last year, last March, we're down only 23%, which is great. But, again, March was, we were starting to feel the impacts last year in March. So the ridership was decreasing at that point. And over on the TransAid side, you can see we're actually increasing at a greater rate, which will, come apparent later in the presentation. We increased by almost 24%, and we're only off 8% or 9% from last March. So that's exciting that, that TransAid is, getting closer to normal. Next slide. Let's see, I need to move this because I cannot see. Hold on. All right. This particular slide that I get from PART now every other month, as you can see, it only goes through February. So I'll be getting a new one this next month. But as of February, we were still down a significant amount. And you can see all our sister services around the triad were also down. After I think pretty much everyone in the triad went back to charging fares around January, we saw another reduction in service. Next slide. So looking at fixed routes specifically, you can see we've been on a roller coaster ride this last year as far as ridership. We're up and down and all over. And we, from February to March, we are in an upward trend. I had a big jump in March, and I think the weather's getting nicer, and hopefully we'll see more and more people getting out and feeling safe to ride the bus again as more people get vaccinated. Next slide. Passenger per revenue mile, we've been hovering around 9.10 for the last few months, and will probably be our new norm for a while until ridership starts increasing again. Next slide. Wheelchair passengers, as we can see, last few months, winter months, granted, we don't have a lot of wheelchair passengers, and they're not rebounding, as we'll see when we look at the TransAid wheelchair passengers. There's a big increase there, whereas in the fixed route, not so much so yet. Next slide. Bicycle passengers is down again, winter months, but starting to see a little pickup in March, and hopefully as the weather gets nicer again, they'll be out and about. Next slide. On-time performance is steady at about 87%. And hopefully we'll see this go up next month with our changes we've made to the route and improving some of the back-end programming. We should see this increase next month. Next slide. Okay, so TransAid, switching over to our TransAid passenger trips, you can see a pretty big increase, almost the same as last March. So, I think because TransAid passengers were probably getting the vaccines sooner, they were the first folks getting vaccinated, that maybe they're feeling safer going out and, riding again. So we're seeing a bigger increase there. Next slide. Trips per hour is steady at about 2.5. Next slide. Wheelchair passengers, you can see we had a big increase last month. And hopefully that will continue. Next slide. And on-time performance is just amazing. 98, 99%. They're doing a great job there.
Carol, what is the, if I may, I see this is very high, and I was looking at the on-time performance of just the fixed route. What's kind of the industry average on fixed route?
Well, I know that the goal is 95%, but I would say probably reality is closer to 90 to 95.
Okay.
This is Lynette. Is there, I'm just curious, is there a time window within which it's considered on time within give or take 5 minutes, or?
Yes. It's considered on time as long as they stay within that 5-minute window of being late. If they're more than 5 minutes late, they're considered, not on time.
Okay. All right. Well,
thank you. 5-minute window.
Thank you.
Next slide. Okay. Now looking at accidents, we're seeing a little bit of an uptick here as more traffic is out there. We are seeing the accidents pick up also. Thankfully, not so much in preventables as non-preventables, but we did start our safety meetings back this month. And I know Mr. Dexter has been working very hard and, talking to the operators and making sure they stay vigilant out there now that people are back on the roads. Next slide. And fixed route, having the most buses on the road, we're seeing the most incidents there. Again, mostly non-preventable, which is good. Next slide. TransAid, had a great year. Very few preventable accidents, but a little bit of an uptick also. Next slide. And then we have maintenance that hasn't had a accident at all this fiscal year since July. So they're doing wonderfully. Way to go, John. Moving on to maintenance road calls. This goes up and down, and more fixed route than Trans-Aid. Obviously, more buses on the road there. Next slide. Fixed route types, and it varies per month. The last couple of months, we had more other mechanical failures than major, which is good, but it kind of goes up and down. Next slide.
And Carol, if I may ask before on those, and John, if I know you're listening, when we talk about other mechanical failures and mechanical failures, I mean, is this, with this type of consistency, and of course with all the new buses that we have, is there something in particular that maybe needs to be fixed on a more frequent basis in regards to these brand new hybrids?
Don't have the new buses yet. Which buses are you referring to?
On the fixed route.
You said the new buses. I'm actually, what buses are we referring to?
No. I was just wondering, with the mechanical failures, is there a particular coincidence with all these, what's listed as mechanical failures?
Not necessarily. The buses that we have now, they might seem still new. They got 500,000 miles on them. So we just keep them going.
Yeah.
We haven't received the 8 new buses that you all approved for us to, that were approved for us to utilize with the CARES Act funding. Those have not, we haven't received those yet. They'll be, hopefully, John will be traveling next month to go in and start the inspection process for the new buses. So they will help us to be able to retire the the older blue and white buses. So that will help with the roll call situation as well, because right now we have some pretty old vehicles out there, and a lot of the vehicles we have a lot of high miles on them. So it does have a tendency to cause for more maintenance needs, and the preventive maintenance that has to be taken, that has to keep them up and keep them running, that sometimes can vary based on the mileage and the age of the fleet.
So that basically answers my question. So it's basically on our old blue and white buses that we're seeing it, not on our hybrids. Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to our phone calls. As you can see, they are also increasing. We're up, pushing towards the 15,000 mark. And we'll probably see a little bump next month as we're starting, whenever we see a service change, we have more phone calls. So I'm sure that will continue to increase. Next slide. And looking at this, this is another performance, a really good performance by Mobility Management. They have met their on-time, their phone call answering, the percent of phone calls answered goal since October of 2019. So they've been above 95% consistently since then, which is awesome. And you can see they're starting out the year in that same place. So congratulations to them. Next slide. And abandoned calls still very low, and we like to see that. So next slide. Any questions?
Those are all pretty impressive results. It's a little difficult to have questions when it's that good of a report.
I agree with you more, Ms. Allendorf. Yes.
That's good.
Thank you, Carol.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Woodson, what is next on our agenda?
I believe that's pretty much it, unless anyone has any questions with the staff report. That is the, we're at the end of our board meeting, unless anyone has any questions on the staff reports that you have reviewed.
Well, Ms. Woodson, I did have one, because I know what a wonderful thing that we did, and you had a slide earlier, you had it in our packet in regards to the rides for vaccinations. And I believe at our last meeting, we had said that not that many people had taken advantage of it. Have we seen an uptick?
We have. We've actually seen an uptick in the in that, and I think we almost over 1,000 trips of passengers going to be vaccinated. We've actually went through and we're utilizing the TransAid, as well as we've had a few fixed route trips that were provided for a specific company that requested that we actually transport their employees to and from. So we had a little shuttle service with 2 buses that provided that transportation to and from the vaccination site. We also have partnered with one of the subrecipients to assist with us with that. So we're reporting weekly, and we've reached that. I believe last week we transported. As of last week, we transported 589 in the last few weeks. So we're doing pretty good with our transportation. It's not where we want it, but as they open up everything, and now they're taking walk-ins, to my understanding, so that should increase the participation in the vaccine. I think a lot of people are still apprehensive about getting the vaccine. So that kind of, and you know, they have free transportation with WSTA, and other transit authorities are providing free transit as well. So I think that the thing now is just educating people and making them feel comfortable with getting the vaccines. And if they feel comfortable, we'll take them.
And I got to say that receiving that $12 million little boost help cover some of that and a lot of other things for those of you that read that breakdown. Because am I correct, Ms. Woodson, wasn't our balance, we're still like $3 million out of the 12? Out
of the CARES Act funding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we still about $3 million left out of that. So though the CARES Act, and that was in the last last month's presentation, and we, you know, wanted the board to be aware of all of the expenditures we've utilized those funds for, and all of the PPE and all of the payroll, you know, with COVID issues. We have a balance forward of about $3 million left from the CARES Act. So we're pretty satisfied with the way it has gone thus far.
Well,
Ms. Woodson, this is Jack Fleer. I have a question about the free rides for vaccination.
Yes, sir.
As I understand, in order to try to get more people to participate to take vaccines, there's going to be an effort to move them into individual physicians' offices. Will that be included on the free ride? Or is it only to sort of general mass vaccination sites?
No, sir, that would be included. We work with the health department one-on-one and with Novant Health. So that would be included as well. And we do know that some of the pharmacies are actually giving vaccines too. I was in Walgreens, and they actually gave a man a vaccine when I was in there. So the cities are doing really well with trying to provide locations where they can provide the vaccine as another means to you know, public outreach, to let them know it's safe. We have it here closer to you, so that it would remove any barriers for people that want to get the vaccine.
That's very good news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Very good. Well, fellow board members, any other questions, comments, concerns? Wow. We all know Ms. Woodson loves questions.
Mr. Garcia, if you would, before you adjourn, if you could discuss the meeting change request for May and June.
Yes, fellow board members, if you could make, of course, an email will come out from Ms. Woodson, but on May's meeting, which is May 27th, I'm looking at my calendar, we are considering moving that meeting time up from 4 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Am I correct, Ms. Woodson?
That is correct, and I'll explain the reason why, board members. There was a conflict with the city because all of the city meetings are virtual. We have to, and they're live streamed. We have to have a certain time frame in between each one to allow for the proper streaming. And there was a conflict with several meetings on May the 27th. So I asked, I spoke with Mr. Garcia. We were wanting to know if the board so desired, if we could move it just for the month of May to 1 o'clock to adhere to the other departments and to make sure that we have our meeting for the month of May, because we do have an item that we need to bring before you.
So if you would be so kind and take a look at your calendars, if you've made that note, fellow board members, if 1 o'clock would be okay with everyone. And of course, Ms. Woods is going to follow up with an email, but didn't want you to just be surprised by that email. Also, to our June meeting, which is on June 24th, if I'm correct.
Yes.
At this time, we are considering canceling that meeting unless for some reason something comes up and we might have to book a meeting prior to that, maybe the week or the week after. We will let you know. But as of right now, we are canceling the June meeting. So if you'd like to make that note. Of course, this will all be followed up with emails to everybody. Okay. I believe that covered it. Correct, Ms. Woodson?
Yes, if you, I mean, I guess we could, I don't know if you want to entertain a vote for it or just make that, or we have to follow up with it in our, because the May meeting is the next one.
Well, I'm not sure if a vote, I mean, certainly we can, if people need to check their calendars or need to go back to their respective calendars and their work life or home life and see if there's conflicts, to let us know.
Yes, sir.
This is Jack Clear. I would have a conflict on May the 27th. I would probably be about 20 minutes late.
Okay.
This is Lynette. I would not have a conflict with that.
Ms. Wright?
I don't appear to have a conflict at the moment, but let me get in front of a bigger version of my calendar and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clark?
No conflict.
You got it. Mr. King? Mr. King might have had to.
Actually, all looks well for me that day. If you'll send out the invite early so I can go ahead and pop it on my calendar.
Okay.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, board members. We appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
You're very, very welcome. Well, everyone, thank you for your time. My goodness, we're finishing at 4:59.
Yes.
We're getting good at this on Zoom, even though I'm blind and I can't adjust my screen and enlarge and yeah. Hey, practice makes perfect. So thank you all board members for your participation, for your input, for your questions. Ms. Woodson, to you and all the WSTA staff, thanking again, congratulations on that award to everybody.
Thank you.
Might need to buy a big old cake for everybody to celebrate that maybe someday when we can.
Yes, well, we've done some celebrating. We've done some food trucks and things that were safe, but we provided some, appreciation lunches for the employees here. So yes.
Well, good. Well, thank you all. And I believe, Tanique, I think you're on the call, and I always like to tell you hello, and everyone from the city. Thank you for all joining us. So with that said, everyone, hi, Tanique, I see you now. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Ms. Woodson, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.